What's up guys, welcome back. This is anime fiction. You'll be watching What If Naruto Was Reborn as the Emperor of Viltrumites Part 11. Now, let's begin. The morning alarm rang at exactly 5:30 a.m., a sound that Naruto muted with a swift action. He got out of bed with deliberate precision, ensuring he did not disrupt Amanda and Roberta, who were resting next to him. The Battle Beast coat was displayed on a specialized stand near the door, not suitable for his current role, yet always within easy access. Naruto's morning routine was systematic. A quarter of an hour of physical activity is intentionally limited to prevent any potential damage to the property. A duration of 7 minutes for a shower. Breakfast is meticulously prepared with attention to detail. All actions are meticulously planned to uphold his identity as Naruto Grayson, a former military specialist and now a detective in the Special Investigations Division of the Musutafu Police Department. To deceive the world, one must first establish the foundational elements of the fabricated identity as a reality. As he donned his tailored suit, Naruto contemplated the identity that Roberta had meticulously crafted for him. The decision to align himself with law enforcement was a calculated one. While heroes may enjoy heightened public visibility, detectives possess access to information systems, crime scenes, and intelligence networks that are essential for their mission. "It appears you were deep in thought this morning," Amanda remarked, having woken up during his preparations. She sat up in bed, observing him as he adjusted his tie with a sense of amusement. "Are you still acclimating to your role as an officer?" "The role is instructive," Naruto replied, his voice thoughtfully adjusted to a more engaging tone than his usual authoritative manner. The ongoing modification of his speech patterns continued to be unsettling, yet he acknowledged its importance. The systems of authority in place demonstrate inefficiencies, yet they provide valuable insights. Amanda smiled, extending her body gracefully. "You present yourself well in the suit. It certainly conveys a detective-like appearance." Naruto assessed his reflection in the mirror. The tailored charcoal suit effectively minimized the visibility of his muscular frame, yet he still exuded an imposing presence. His hair was meticulously styled, and his mustache was flawlessly maintained. "Is the integration of the children at UA progressing as anticipated?" he inquired, adjusting his service weapon a mere formality, as it served primarily a decorative purpose considering his capabilities. Amanda confirmed that Marcus and Evelyn are performing exceptionally well in Class 1A, while Mark and Eva are achieving similar success in Class 1B. The teacher, Aizawa, appears to be under scrutiny, a situation that Roberta had anticipated after reviewing his background. Naruto acknowledged with a single nod. "This is acceptable. Suspicion without evidence simply highlights their exceptional nature." He approached the bedside, leaning down to gently kiss Amanda's forehead and then Roberta's sleeping figure as well. It appears he exhausted her considerably with their tasks. Amanda possesses an advantage due to her enhanced stamina from her alternate form. "I will return at approximately 1900. Amanda grasped his hand, her demeanor becoming gentler. "That is 7 p.m. in Standard Time. Additionally, consider saying, 'I'll be home for dinner,' instead. You are improving, but at times your tone may still resemble that of a monotonous lecture." "I will be home for dinner," Naruto reiterated, the informal phrasing feeling unfamiliar on his tongue. Amanda expressed her approval with a smile, stating, "Much better. Now proceed to apprehend some suspects, detective." The Special Investigations Division of the Musutafu Police Department was situated on the uppermost floor of the Central Precinct building. In contrast to the lively operations of the regular police departments below, the CID functioned with a calm precision, addressing cases that involved intricate quirk usage, organized crime intertwined with quirk elements, and circumstances necessitating expertise that surpassed conventional police training. Naruto arrived at the office promptly at 7 a.m., offering nods of recognition to the few colleagues who had also come in early. His desk was pristine, arranged with meticulous order, a characteristic that had once attracted inquisitive looks but was now regarded as just another of Detective Grayson's disciplined idiosyncrasies. "Good morning, Grayson," Detective Tanaka greeted, a seasoned officer with a subtle analytical quirk that sharpened his observational abilities. "Your punctuality remains commendable." "Good morning, Tanaka," Naruto responded, deliberately enhancing his expression with a subtle smile that would be perceived as friendly by others. "Were there any updates overnight?" Tanaka presented a folder to him. "2 new cases have emerged. One involves a quirk-based robbery at Musutafu Central Bank, featuring a phasing ability. A series of assaults has been reported in the warehouse district. Victims indicate that they were attacked by an individual capable of manipulating shadows." Naruto opened the folder, reviewing the contents with swift precision while ensuring a suitable reading pace. The phasing quirk aligns with the modus operandi of the suspect involved in the Hosu jewelry heist last month. Has the hero's office been informed? Yes, they are dispatching an individual to assist. It is likely to be a local expert rather than a widely recognized figure. Naruto acknowledged the information, systematically assessing the strategic implications of a phasing quirk along with its possible vulnerabilities. I will assume responsibility for the warehouse district case. The evidence of shadow manipulation indicates a perpetrator with a focus on stealth. It is less probable that there is any involvement from a hero at this stage. Tanaka arched an eyebrow. You consistently choose the options devoid of heroic figures. Are you not an admirer of the caped individuals? This was a consistent observation that necessitated meticulous management. Naruto had intentionally created a pattern of maintaining a professional distance from heroes without exhibiting any overt hostility that could arouse suspicion. Taking this approach will provide a safeguard for when he eventually forms a closer relationship with them. Heroes have their purpose, Naruto stated, infusing his tone with a subtle nuance that others might perceive as dry humor. However, their enthusiasm often complicates investigations. Tanaka expressed amusement. As always, Grayson, you maintain a diplomatic approach. However, you are correct. Last week, that individual backdraft nearly compromised my crime scene in his attempt to assist. That is exactly my point, Naruto stated, standing up from his desk. I will commence with the latest incident location. The warehouse district extended along the eastern boundary of Musutafu, characterized by a complex arrangement of industrial structures, shipping containers, and narrow passageways. The latest incident took place in a service corridor situated between two storage facilities, away from the primary thoroughfares. Naruto assessed the situation, his heightened senses perceiving nuances that remained undetected by human investigators. Microscopic traces of a dark substance adhered to the walls, not blood, but akin to the residue produced by specific anomalies. The arrangement of scuff marks on the surface suggested a confrontation, with the victim being pulled roughly 4.7 meters before their escape. He was recording these observations when he noticed an individual approaching the rooftops with skillful stealth, yet not quietly enough to escape his auditory perception. You may as well come down, Naruto stated, maintaining his focus on his notes. Your presence has been acknowledged. A brief pause ensued, after which a figure descended from above, landing in a crouched position before rising to an upright stance. A figure clad in a black and gray costume, adorned with stylized eye motifs on the chest and shoulders, stood before him. Your hearing is quite remarkable, detective, the hero remarked. I often remain unnoticed by others until I choose to draw their attention. Naruto identified him from Roberta's database of local heroes. Nightwatcher, a mid-tier individual equipped with enhanced night vision and limited stealth abilities. While not exceptionally powerful, he is highly respected for his thorough investigative approach to heroism. Detective Grayson, Special Investigations, Naruto stated, offering his hand in a formal greeting. Your reputation is well known, Nightwatcher. The hero appeared satisfied with the acknowledgement, offering a firm handshake to Naruto. I have been monitoring these shadow attacks for the past week. There have been 3 victims to date, each providing a consistent description of the assailant. I plan to monitor the situation closely this evening. Do you think they will return to the same location? Naruto inquired, showing a sincere interest in the hero's rationale. The pattern indicates a territorial behavior, Nightwatcher stated, proceeding to inspect the wall where Naruto had gathered samples. All incidents occurred within a 3-block radius, targeting individuals who were alone in poorly lit areas. This reflects typical predatory behavior. Naruto regarded the analysis with a sense of mild appreciation. This hypothesis is well-founded. The residue present on the walls suggests a phenomenon that alters existing shadows rather than creating darkness autonomously. Nightwatcher turned, surprise apparent in his body language despite the mask concealing his features. Is that something you can deduce from the residue? That's quite an impressive level of insight for a detective. No offense intended. No offense taken, Naruto responded with poise. I focused on quirk analysis throughout my military service. The molecular structure of authentic shadow manipulation exhibits unique characteristics. Naruto has been engaged in efforts to replicate Roberta's and the Eve's matter manipulation abilities for some time. However, his most significant achievement thus far has been an enhanced awareness of the molecular structure of various substances beyond his own, which proves beneficial for his detective work. Military, I see. That accounts for the posture, Night Watcher remarked, easing up a bit. Detective, given that we share a common objective, I propose we collaborate. I possess night vision capabilities, while you bring valuable analytical skills to the table. Naruto evaluated the proposal. Collaborating with a hero would offer significant insights into their operational strategies, while also initiating the process of positioning himself as a collaborative member of the hero system. That is a highly effective approach, he concurred. I intend to implement surveillance this evening. Your skills would enhance the operation. Night Watcher appeared satisfied with the acknowledgement. Excellent. The majority of law enforcement officers I collaborate with either prefer to delegate responsibilities to heroes or attempt to exclude us entirely. It's refreshing to encounter someone with a pragmatic approach. Naruto acknowledged with a nod, a subtle smile gracing his lips. Prioritizing effectiveness is essential, even above established protocols. I couldn't have articulated that more effectively, Night Watcher responded. I will reconvene here at sunset. That is when our shadow companion is expected to be most active. Confirmed. 1830 at this location. The hero regarded him with an amused expression. Understood. I will see you at 6:30, detective. As Night Watcher left, Naruto resumed his evidence collection, thoughtfully evaluating this interaction. The individual demonstrated respect, competence, and a commendable level of intelligence. This may serve as a valuable resource for obtaining insights into hero society from a mid-tier viewpoint. By mid-afternoon, Naruto had assembled a detailed profile of the shadow manipulator utilizing witness statements, crime scene evidence, and historical case files. The individual in question was presumably male, in his mid-20s, possessing a unique ability to manipulate existing shadows, contingent upon maintaining a direct line of sight. The attacks demonstrated a growing level of confidence, indicating that escalation was likely on the horizon. While he was analyzing security footage from adjacent buildings, Captain Morita approached his desk. Grayson, I understand you are collaborating with Night Watcher on the shadow case, the captain remarked, leaning against the desk partition. The commissioner has been advocating for increased collaboration between heroes and the police recently. The hero's abilities enhance our investigative resources, Naruto stated in a composed manner. This approach was grounded in logic. Morita expressed a lighthearted laugh. Your practicality is commendable, Grayson. It's one of the reasons I appreciate you. There's no ego to contend with. He lowered his voice slightly. It is advisable to monitor his actions closely. Night Watcher is reliable, but individuals in heroic roles can exhibit competitiveness when nearing a capture. Ensure he remains composed and does not act impulsively if the suspect is located. Acknowledged, Captain, Naruto replied with a nod. Ensuring public safety and adherence to proper procedures continues to be our foremost priority. Precisely. Morita adjusted his posture. The commissioner is seeking your input on the quirk classification system you propose. The approach categorizes based on molecular interactions instead of observable effects. He believes it may have applications for the national database. I will prepare a comprehensive proposal, Naruto assured, noting to enlist Roberta's help in creating suitably advanced documentation that remains within the bounds of current scientific understanding. It served as a means to position them as a family deeply knowledgeable about quirks, characterized by scientific ingenuity, largely attributed to the expertise of the girls and Roberta's understanding of matter. This may encourage increased interaction with individuals possessing unique abilities, facilitating further study of these abilities with the aim of eventual replication for Viltrumites. Following Morita's departure, Naruto resumed his analysis. However, he noticed his thoughts wandering towards the hero system of this world. The structure was. It is certainly intriguing. An intricate relationship involving public endorsement, regulatory supervision, and operational efficiency in combat scenarios. It contrasts significantly with Viltrum's strict meritocracy centered on strength, while still possessing its own unique efficiency. His mind remained preoccupied with these thoughts until it was time to head back to the warehouse district. The sunset illuminated Musudafu's skyline with shades of orange and purple as Naruto took his place on a rooftop, surveying the site of the recent attack. He had transitioned from his suit to tactical gear black pants and a dark gray tactical shirt that provided enhanced mobility while preserving a polished look. Night Watcher arrived punctually, landing quietly beside him. Good evening, Detective. This is an excellent location with clear sightlines. It addresses the three most probable approach vectors informed by prior attacks, Naruto articulated. I have installed motion sensors in the blind spots. This statement was yet another fabrication. His heightened senses rendered such devices unnecessary. but upholding his cover necessitated these pretenses. "This setup is quite impressive," Nightwatcher remarked, taking a seat in a well-prepared surveillance position. "Your movements are not typical of standard law enforcement. Are you part of a special forces unit?" "Something along those lines," Naruto responded ambiguously, "a specialized unit." Nightwatcher nodded in agreement. "I collaborated with an individual from the JSDF's quirk response team once. He exhibited that same level of precision." They fell into a contemplative silence, observing the deepening shadows below as night fully enveloped the surroundings. Naruto took the chance to examine the hero with greater attention. The Nightwatcher's breathing patterns, heart rate, and micro-movements indicated a high level of training and experience, superior to the average heroes of this world, yet still insufficient when measured against Viltrumite standards. "What influenced your decision to join the police force rather than pursue a professional career?" Nightwatcher inquired, maintaining a subdued tone. "Given your analytical skills and military experience, you would have made an excellent hero." The inquiry was one that Naruto had anticipated, having acknowledged it as unavoidable in this society that idolizes heroes. "I favor a more organized approach to justice," he responded. "While heroes fulfill their roles, law enforcement provides a reliable framework. It is governed by established procedures, transcending personal interpretations of morality." Nightwatcher appeared to reflect on this. "You raise a valid point. The hero system does have its shortcomings. There tends to be an excessive focus on flashy abilities and popularity, rather than on tangible outcomes." This was intriguing, a skilled individual articulating criticism of the system. Naruto categorized this as potentially valuable information. "You exhibit a notable level of self-awareness for a professional hero." "I have been engaged in this long enough to recognize the flaws," Nightwatcher remarked with a slight shrug. "I appreciate the work we do, but there is a need for reform within the system. There is an excessive bureaucracy and an overemphasis on rankings and sponsorships. However, you continue to operate within the framework," Naruto noted. "Transformation begins internally," Nightwatcher responded. "Additionally, I do not consider myself to be among the top contenders. It is simpler to maintain one's principles when not presented with lucrative endorsement opportunities." Their discussion was momentarily halted by a disturbance in the alley below, a silhouette gliding seamlessly from shadow to shadow with an eerie grace. Not traversing the darkness, but appearing to integrate with it before re-emerging in a different location. "Target acquired," Naruto remarked softly. The shadows appeared to emanate from the figure's form, indicating a combination of mutation and emission rather than mere manipulation. "I have visual confirmation of him," Nightwatcher stated. "Are you awaiting a potential target or considering relocating?" "The latter option. Previous patterns indicate hunting behavior rather than ambush predation." Nightwatcher cast him another look of surprise. "Your expertise is evident, detective. Many officers would have simply stated, 'He's on the move.'" Naruto recognized that he had inadvertently altered his speech pattern, permitting his analytical tendencies to take precedence over his more personable demeanor. "Military discipline. Accurate terminology ensures clarity in communication." The shadowy figure advanced further into the warehouse complex, intermittently stopping to assess the surroundings while clearly maintaining a determined direction. "We will proceed," Naruto determined, meticulously strategizing the most effective intercept route. "Ensure visual awareness while emphasizing discretion." Nightwatcher acknowledged with a nod. "I will proceed with the elevated approach, while you manage the ground level." "Indeed," Naruto concurred. They parted ways, with Naruto descending to ground level with measured precision to ensure he made the appropriate noise for a human. He trailed the shadow manipulator through the complex of warehouses, keeping a distance that would appear difficult yet feasible for a skilled detective who is nursing an injury and refrains from utilizing his enhancement quirk for personal reasons. The individual ultimately came to a halt at a deserted loading dock, characterized by notably thick shadows. Naruto watched as the figure appeared to merge with the shadows, becoming almost imperceptible to the average human eye. The voice of Nightwatcher was transmitted through the communicator that Naruto had received earlier. "I have lost visual contact. It is too dark, even for my night vision capabilities. Are you still able to see him?" "No," Naruto replied with confidence, his enhanced vision monitoring the suspect with precision. "He has accessed the loading dock of Warehouse 17. The only exits are the main doors and a fire escape located on the east side." "I will utilize the fire escape," Nightwatcher responded. "Please secure the main entrance and await my signal before proceeding." "Acknowledged," Naruto responded, taking his position. He certainly could apprehend the suspect immediately with little exertion. However, that would jeopardize his cover and squander a significant opportunity to analyze hero operational procedures. Endurance has been his ally for countless ages, it will support him once more. The Nightwatcher's signal was received 3 minutes later, consisting of 3 distinct clicks over the communicator. Naruto entered through the main doors, moving with precision and purpose, service weapon drawn as protocol required. He detected Nightwatcher's measured breathing from the catwalk above. "Police, please exit with your hands in plain sight," Naruto commanded. A laugh resonated through the darkness, appearing to emanate from multiple directions simultaneously. "Law enforcement? In my territory? How charming." Shadows advanced with remarkable velocity, resembling solid tentacles as they targeted Naruto. He permitted one to graze his arm before skillfully evading the others. "Nightwatcher, he can utilize the shadows as a weapon," Naruto declared. The individual descended from above, his specialized goggles emitting a subtle glow as he engaged an enhancement feature. "I have visual confirmation. 3 o'clock from your current position, detective," Naruto pivoted, discharging his weapon with calculated near misses to maneuver the suspect toward Nightwatcher's location. The hero advanced, utilizing the diversion to shorten the gap and activate a capture device, a specialized light-emitting restraint engineered for shadow abilities. The suspect emitted a howl as the light penetrated his shadowy figure, compelling him to take on a solid form. Heroes are consistently meddling in affairs. Naruto proceeded to finalize the arrest, articulating the necessary legal warnings while apprehending the now visible suspect, a slender individual with gray-tinged skin and completely black eyes. "Excellent coordination, detective," Nightwatcher remarked as they escorted the secured suspect outside, where a police transport was already arriving, summoned by Naruto's earlier alert. "The majority of law enforcement officers I collaborate with would have been considered expendable." "Likewise," Naruto said, with a tinge of real approval. "Your tactical approach was efficient." After handing over the suspect to the transport authorities, Nightwatcher offered his hand. "We made a good team. If you ever need hero backup on another case, ask for me specifically. Most of the flashy types wouldn't appreciate your style, but I do." Naruto received the handshake, taking care to impart proper human pressure. "I'll keep that in mind. Your assistance was valuable." As Nightwatcher left and Naruto began the paperwork for the arrest, he reflected on the night's events. Another day of establishing himself is complete. He should compensate Nolan in some manner when they return. This covert business is rather annoying, especially since he has to change his speech to more approachable levels. To not sound, as Amanda so gently put it, like a Roman emperor trying to file a complaint at the DMV with blood on his sandals. Yes, perhaps his younger sibling deserved an extra reward. Skip 1 month in time. Samantha, war-torn Eves, Pav. I remember believing in heroes. I thought sacrifice meant anything. That if I provided enough, my body, my safety, my future, the world would acknowledge it. Reward it. Protect me in return. I was such a child then. The mask fits flawlessly against my face, with the black material molding to my features like a second skin. The voice modulator hums quietly when I breathe, converting my natural tones into something deeper and more mechanical. Less human. Quite appropriate. The long black cloak wraps around me as I crouch on the rooftop, observing the warehouse below. Heisenberg, Nolan's spotless white figure stands in dramatic contrast to my darkness, as if we are playing yin and yang. Good cop and terrible cop. However, neither of us are good. 6 guards, he says, his voice also affected by the mask. 2 at each entrance, 2 patrolling. Standard rotation pattern. Minimal quirk usage. They're trying to stay under the radar. I nodded once. The lab, northeast corner. Reinforced walls. 3 heat signatures inside, likely the chemists. The plan is straightforward. We aren't here to arrest anyone or save the day. We are here to take control. To claim this minor enterprise as our own and exploit it to advance in this world's underworld. To finally reveal the shadow that Roberta, my mother now, and it's hard to think of her that way, discovers lurking behind everything. All for one. The biggest villain in the world's history. Dad wants to meet him. To comprehend him. To eliminate him, if necessary. And whatever Dad wants, I make sure he gets. Ready? Heisenberg inquires, though it is not a question. We both know who I am. I rise, feeling the power pulsing through my veins. My powers have evolved since my arrival in this planet, since Roberta's genetic changes, and from everything I've been through. The mental barriers that once limited my chemical manipulation have vanished. I can sense every atom around me right now. Each molecule. Every possibilities. Let's go, I say, stepping off the roof. The first guard does not even have time to shout. I fall softly behind him, my hand already covering his mouth as I manipulate the air molecules surrounding his head to create an oxygen-free zone. He struggled briefly before passing out in my arms. Across the yard, Heisenberg moves like a white ghost, his increased speed making him practically invisible as he dispatches the remaining guards with equal efficiency. We meet at the side door, bodies discreetly hidden. Remember, he whispers, we need most of them alive. This operation continues under new management. I nod, but a part of me is dissatisfied. Such notions would have appalled me in the past. But the old me perished in another universe, in another Mark's wicked hands. The electronic lock on the door is simple to operate. I just change the metal's molecular structure, causing it to flow like water around my fingers before hardening in an open state. Inside, the warehouse is dimly lit, with stacks of containers forming a maze-like layout. The air smells like chemicals and sweat. From the shadows, I can hear quiet talks and the occasional laugh. They have no idea what is coming. Heisenberg taps my shoulder and points to a corridor that leads deeper into the building. I follow, my movements silent, my senses heightened by the molecular vibrations around us. 3 men playing cards on a foldable table. 2 more cleaning weapons. 1 person is speaking swiftly into a phone, all small threats. The laboratory is located at the end of the corridor, behind a strong steel door. It allows me to sense 3 persons moving around equipment, as well as the complicated chemical structures of their medicine floating in solution tanks. Heisenberg. That name is still kind of weird. Nolan chose it because Debbie and he liked some show. I still need to see it, but luckily Mom has it downloaded, stares at me, and I know what he's asking. With a tiny nod, I lay my palm against the door and feel the metal bend to my will, like curtains parted. The 3 guys inside halt, their expressions transforming from astonishment to terror as they take in our appearances, the black and white figures emerging from nowhere, faceless behind our masks. What the fuck? One of them asks, grabbing for something beneath his lab coat. He never finishes the motion. Heisenberg is a blur across the room, with his arms stretched at an unusual position behind his back. I wouldn't, Heisenberg replies calmly. The other 2 raise their hands instantly and move away from their workstations. Who are you? Inquires the eldest of them, a skinny guy with graying hair around his temples. If Muscular sent you. We represent ourselves, I say, my voice sounding frigid through the modulator. Your operation interests us. The 3rd man, younger than the others and with apprehensive eyes, looks toward a red button on the wall. I smile beneath my mask, but they cannot see it. If you're thinking about calling for help, I whisper softly, don't bother. To demonstrate, I reach my hand towards the alarm system. With a thought, the wire inside the wall dissolves, splitting and regenerating as harmless dust. The young man's eyes expand. What kind of quirk is that? Before I can say how ridiculous that question is, the door behind us bursts open. 6 men charge in, guns drawn, led by a powerful person with a face tattoo that climbs up his neck like ivy. Boss, one of the guys adds, these 2 just walked in. I can see that, moron, the tattooed man snaps. He observes us with narrowed eyes. You've got some nerve coming in here uninvited. This is Viper territory. So, this is the famed Viper. The leader of this small-time organization, notorious for his ruthlessness and the power of the quirk-enhancing medications his chemists create. Not the most powerful villain in the area, but influential enough for our purposes. Your security is inadequate, Heisenberg says frankly. 6 of your men are currently unconscious outside. Your alarm system has been neutralized, and you still don't understand the situation you're in. Viper laughs, producing a rough sound similar to gravel being crushed. Big talk from a couple of costumed freaks. Do you have any idea who I am? A small fish, I replied, in a very large pond. His features darken. You're dead. Both of you. He turns to face his soldiers. Kill them. Slowly. The shooters lift their firearms, but they move too slowly. Way terribly slow. I increase my awareness by feeling the metal of their guns and the toxins in the ammunition. With a flick of my wrist, I change the molecular bonds. The weapons shatter in their hands, transforming into fine dust that sifts between their fingers. Their emotions are almost funny, as disbelief turns to dread as they grasp what they are up against. Heisenberg then moves, creating a white blur among them. I hear bone cracks and quiet thuds as corpses hit the floor. He takes care not to murder them, but rather to render them incapacitated. After all, we need workers. In seconds, just Viper is left standing, his tattooed face blanched with shock. What the fuck are you people? He stammers, backing backward and hitting the lab table. I take a step forward, my black coat swirling around my ankles. We're your new employers. His apprehension turns into rage. Like hell you are. This is my operation. My territory, Heisenberg corrects gently. Viper's hand shoots to his belt, pulling a knife with practiced speed. As he lunges for me, the blade gleams in the harsh fluorescent lighting. I do not move. You don't need to. The knife stops an inch from my throat, held in place by nothing visible. Viper strains against the invisible force, his muscles bulging with effort and veins evident on his forehead. Surprised? I ask softly. I've frozen the air molecules around your blade. You could have the strength of 100 men, and it wouldn't make a difference. With a little gesture, I send him flying backward, colliding with the apparatus behind him. Glass shatters, chemicals pour on the floor, and Viper groans as he fights to get up. Who cooks? Heisenberg inquires, his tone cool as if we were having a normal business meeting. The older chemist shakes his finger at Viper. He does. He's the only one who knows the full formula. We just assist. Heisenberg glances to Viper, who is back on his feet, blood dripping from a wound on his forehead. Interesting. So you're not just muscle. You have skills. Fuck you, the Viper spits. You think you can just walk in here and take over? Do you know who I'm connected to? Who protects me? No one protects you now, I say, moving closer. His hatred-filled eyes dart toward me. Go back to wherever you came from and suck your daddy's limp dick, you masked cunt. The words lingered in the air for a time. I feel something cold and hard crystallize in my chest, which is a familiar sensation. Cold wrath. Nobody insults my father. Not ever. Heisenberg, I say gently, I'll handle this one. He nods once, indicating understanding in his position. Don't take too long. We have business to conclude. I approach Viper gently, keeping my hands by my sides. He tries to back away, but I've already controlled the molecules in the floor beneath him, forming a slight adhesion that keeps his feet in place. What the? He asks, staring down in confusion. You mentioned my father, I respond calmly via the modulator. That was a mistake. When I raise my hand, Viper's eyes widen as his flesh begins to peel away from his forearm, not tearing, but separating molecularly. A flawless, bloodless flaying. His scream resonates across the lab as I carefully manage his nerve endings to ensure maximum stimulation. My father, I say sheepishly, is the greatest being in creation. Emperor of worlds you couldn't begin to comprehend. The strongest, the wisest, the most worthy of respect. Another layer of flesh peels off his chest. Viper's screams become louder, his body quivering with pain and terror. And you dared speak of him with disrespect. I'm cautious with my power, preserving his vital functions even while I dismantle him. His lungs continue to work as I remove the protecting tissue around them, exposing the throbbing organs to the air. His heart continues to beat while I expose its outer layers, showing the muscular contractions underneath. Please, Viper moans between cries. Please stop, I didn't know. Of course, you didn't know, I say gently. How could you? You're nothing. Less than nothing. I alter the oxygen supply to his brain, causing temporary hypoxia before restoring it. The cycle of panic and relief has proven to be extremely beneficial in my experience. When the human mind is given moments of hope in between painful experiences, it breaks more deeply. I know from experience. Behind me, I can feel the horror emanating from the chemists and the last conscious guards. Good. Let them see. Allow them to realize what happens to those who disrespect what is important to me. After what appears to be hours but is most likely minutes, Viper is scarcely identifiable as a human. A live anatomical show of exposed muscle, bone, and organ, powered solely by my might. His screams have turned into whimpers, his psyche shattered by pain beyond description. I step back and admire my work. The older me would be terrified. My former hero would have thought this was awful. But that me died a long time ago, in another planet, at another mark's hand. This me understands the truth. Power is the sole reality. Those who disregard authority must learn their place. Heisenberg comes alongside me, his white form unaffected by the blood and fluids that have covered the floor around Viper's suspended body. "That's enough," he says softly. I nod and walk aside. Heisenberg positioned himself atop the remnants of Viper's head. His white footwear rises, hovers for a moment before descending. The sound is similar to a watermelon bursting, with a wet crack followed by a splash of blood, bone pieces, and brain matter spraying across the floor. Some of it splatters on my black coat, but I don't mind. The material is designed to reject such objects. The room falls silent, but for the panicked breathing of the spectators. Heisenberg turns to face them, his white mask expressionless yet emanating power. "I am the cook now," he proclaims, his controlled voice clearly audible. "This operation belongs to us. Those who prove useful will be rewarded. Those who resist will join your former employer." He motions to me, and I know what he wants. With a wave of my hand, I materialize the information we've obtained: personnel files, home addresses, family photos, and names, and spread it across the wounded floor. "We know who you are," I say quietly. "We know where you live, who you love, what you fear." One of the guards began sobbing silently. "Clean this lab," Heisenberg instructs. "Every trace of contamination must be removed before production resumes. We maintain certain standards." The survivors scurry to obey, giving the remnants of Viper a wide distance while gathering cleaning supplies. While they work, Heisenberg and I move to a corner to observe. Though our masks conceal our emotions, I can read his posture, the little strain in his shoulders, the way his head tilts. "Was that display necessary?" he asks quietly, addressing only my ears. I evaluate the question. Was it necessary? Maybe not. Efficient? Definitely not. However, it had a function beyond mere fear. "They need to understand," I say. "Fear is the foundation. Respect comes later." He looks at me for a moment and nods once. "Just remember our purpose here. We're not doing this for pleasure." "I know why we're here," I remark, probably harsher than necessary. "To draw out all for one. To understand him. To eliminate him if necessary. And to gather intelligence on this world's power structures," Heisenberg continues. "For when the Emperor decides its fate. Yes. For when Dad decides. For when he decides whether this world is worthy of elevation or just conquest." I see the scared workman washing Viper's remains from the floor, and I feel nothing. He had no satisfaction from his pain. There is no guilt over his death. Just the peaceful assurance that I've done everything required to defend what matters. Dad protected me while I was broken. When Mark, the demon that wore my former love's face, had finished destroying everything I represented, Dad found me, saved me, and loved me despite my weaknesses. I'd burn 1,000 worlds to maintain his praise. To see the pride in his eyes when he stares at me. I cannot endure if he no longer loves me. The younger chemist has potential, Heisenberg concludes, returning me to the present. He's afraid, but he's thinking. Calculating his options. I follow his attention to the frightened young man who is managing the cleanup with impressive competence. "You're right. Mark him for possible promotion. Already done." We fall silent again, watching our new business take shape around us. By dawn, production will continue with enhanced quality control. Within a week, our product will begin to replace lesser alternatives on the streets. Within a month, the bigger players will take note. And soon, the shadow behind it all for one, will become aware of the new operators in his domain. That's when the actual labor begins. As I stand in this blood-soaked lab, surrounded by terror and death, I reflect on the route that led me here. How I went from a hero eager to do anything for others to this. Whatever I am now, I remember trusting in goodness. In justice. In the belief that if you battled hard enough for what was right, the universe would eventually acknowledge and reward you. Then I remember Mark's hands on my skin, cutting, marking, and forcing himself on me while whispering about love. I remember being locked in that wheelchair, helpless as he dictated when I could eat, sleep, and speak. I recall the world going on without me. Heroes continuing their meaningless cycle of fight, die, repeat while I suffered in quiet. I remember Dad finding me. Carrying me out of that inferno. Looking at me with recognition, not pity, and seeing promise rather than brokenness. The world had a chance with me. It took everything but offered nothing back. Now, I serve a different purpose. A larger vision. One that does not pretend to be compassionate or fair, but does recognize the truth. Power is the only reality that matters. And, via my father and the Emperor, I now have power that no one can take away. One of the guards spills a pail, and the clang echoes around the laboratory. Everyone freezes, their gaze drawn to me and Heisenberg, waiting for punishment. Continue, I respond softly. You have until dawn. They return to their jobs with newfound zeal, scared of failure. This is my life right now. Not a hero, nor a villain. Something else. Something necessary. War. The bus buzzed down the highway, transporting Class 1A to their next training session. Marcus sat near the window, his posture relaxed yet vigilant as he watched his classmates interact. Beside him, Evelyn had a cordial talk with Yaoyorozu about molecular physics, and they got along well due to their similar abilities. I'm telling you, Kaminari's voice erupted above the background noise. The Grayson siblings are definitely going to be top heroes someday. Did you see them during combat training? Insane? They're certainly skilled, Iida remarked, his hands cutting the air in his signature style. Their quirks appear to be exceptionally well developed for late bloomers. Marcus caught Evelyn's eye briefly, and they shared a slight laugh at their classmate's assumption. Maintaining their cover as late-blooming quirk users had proven successful. Nevertheless, explaining their amazing control while rationalizing their absence from past hero schools or competitions was the most difficult task. They were also successful in this regard. Grayson! Kirishima cried out. Is it true your dad was in some special military unit? That's where you learned to fight so well. Marcus gave a trained smile, the kind that appeared real but revealed nothing. My father taught us discipline, yes. Military habits die hard, I suppose. Though he works primarily as a travel writer now. And your uncle? Ishido inquired, leaning forward eagerly. The one who's Evelyn's dad? I heard he was some kind of special forces guy too. Something like that, Evelyn said with a humble shrug. Dad doesn't talk about it much. Old injuries forced him to retire early. The talk turned when the USJ facility appeared, a massive domed structure constructed for rescue training in a variety of crisis scenarios. Marcus heard Midoriya excitedly murmuring about the Space Hero 13, who designed the building, and made a note of it for later. Marcus saw Aizawa and 13 waiting at the entryway as they got off the bus. Welcome to the unforeseen simulation joint, 13 said as they walked into the huge building. As you can see, I've built this place to get you ready for rescue missions in different kinds of disaster areas. Marcus looked around the huge room with real interest. The engineering was amazing. Several areas recreated natural disasters with amazing accuracy. A shipwreck zone with genuine water, a landslide zone with controlled rockfalls, and a fire zone with real fire. Where's All Might? Aizawa asked 13 in a low voice, but Marcus's increased hearing made it easy to hear. He was supposed to meet us here. Apparently, he reached his limit during morning patrols, 13 said, holding up 3 fingers in a secret way to show that the hero had a mystery time restriction that Marcus had already noticed. That's interesting. This proved that they knew All Might was getting weaker. Marcus put the material away while still looking like a studious student. Marcus's attention was attracted to the central square below as 13 began to talk about the risks of rescue efforts and how peculiarities may kill. The air looked like it was shimmering in a strange way, like it shouldn't be. He gave Evelyn a little push and pointed her in the right direction with a small nod. She noticed right away, and her posture changed slightly as she got ready for trouble. Everyone, stay together, Aizawa suddenly shouted, interrupting 13's speech. Something's not right. The air in the square, which was sparkling, turned into a black, spinning vortex. First, a pale, disembodied hand appeared, followed by a face covered with what seemed like severed hands. Sensei, Marcus whispered softly, those aren't staff, are they? No, Aizawa said, letting go of his capture weapon. Those are bad guys. The black mist became larger, and scores of people fell out onto the central plaza. They were a strange mix of crooks and thugs, with the hand-covered figure in charge. With his improved eyesight, Marcus was able to rapidly count them. 47 people with different oddities, most of whom seemed like regular criminals rather than trained fighters. 13. Protect the students, Aizawa said as he put on his goggles. This is real fighting now. But Sensei, Midoriya said, your fighting style is capture and ambush. Taking on that many, Aizawa said, no good hero is a one-trick pony, and then he jumped down to fight the bad guys. Marcus saw Eraserhead fight off the first round of assailants. Aizawa's hand-to-hand combat skills were superb, even though his quirk was mostly used for ambush tactics. He moved quickly and made sure that each attack had the most effect. 13 pointed to the door and said, "We need to leave. Stay together," and the black mist appeared right in front of them, growing into a tall column of darkness with flashing yellow eyes. The mist said in a deep, sophisticated voice, "Hello. We are the League of Villains. Please forgive our rudeness, but today we are at UA High School, the home of heroes, to kill All Might, the symbol of peace." Marcus tightened up as he thought about how to fight and what kind of quirk this was. Some kind of teleportation or spatial manipulation, probably with a long range because they got into a secure building. Even though it looks like All Might isn't here, was there a change in the schedule? The mist went on. "Doesn't matter. My job stays the same." 13 moved to open the ports on their fingertips, but before they could do anything, Bakugo and Kirishima threw themselves toward the villain in the mist without thinking. "Idiots," Marcus said under his breath as their attacks went through the mist without hurting anyone. "How dangerous," the bad guy said as the smoke from their attacks cleared. "You may be students, but you're the best of the best." The fog soon got bigger and covered everyone. "Now, run away and let yourself be tortured to death." Marcus could feel the distortion in space pulling at him. He instinctively sought for Evelyn's hand, but the warping force pulled them apart before their fingers could connect. As the darkness took over his sight, Marcus saw his classmates being pushed in different directions one more time. Strategic separation, he thought, staying calm since Craig and Naruto had trained him to do so. The vacuum took him, split up and take over. Marcus hit the ground hard on rocky ground, rolled to absorb the shock, and then jumped to his feet in a defensive position. Quick look. Landslide zone. Unstable ground. Dust clouds make it hard to see. 3 civilian students are close by. Bakugo, Kirishima, and Mineta. The latter was shaking a lot, and tears were already welling up in his eyes. And coming up fast. 5 bad guys with different physical mutations that were already moving to surround them. Well, one bad guy grinned as his arms turned into sharp swords. "Looks like we have some kids to cut up." There were little explosions in Bakugo's palms. "Extras, you picked the wrong day to make me mad. Wait." Marcus yelled, and his voice was strong enough to make Bakugo stop. "First, form up. Back to back. Check before you fight. Don't tell me what to do," Bakugo said. "Do you want to die here?" Marcus cut him off. His voice became colder and more authoritative than normal. "Form up. Now." Even Bakugo had to do what Marcus said, even though he clearly didn't want to. Maybe it was the way Marcus seemed so sure of himself, or maybe it was how he suddenly stopped being warm. The 4 pupils stood close together, facing outward as the bad guys came at them from all angles. "Blade arms is mine," Bakugo said angrily. "The one with the rock skin goes with my hardening," Kirishima said. Mineta whined and reached for the purple balls on his head with his small hands. "I'll try to hold them in place." "I'll take the 2 on the left," Marcus said. "Mineta, stay in the center. Your quirk works best when you help." The villain with the sword reached Bakugo first and cut him with startling speed. Bakugo hit him with an explosion that made him slide back but didn't stop him. Kirishima fought the opponent with rock-like skin, and their hard bodies hit each other with the sound of stone hitting stone. Marcus stood in front of his 2 opponents. One had lengthy arms that ended in claws, and the other had what looked like acid-secreting pores all over his bare skin. "Just a couple of teens," Acid Skin said with a sneer, spitting out a glob of corrosive liquid. Marcus moved very little to avoid the acid, which splashed harmlessly behind him. He had to be careful here. He had to exhibit enough competence to be alive, but not so much that others started to wonder about his late-blooming quirk. He already showed too much when he was still learning how to act during the entrance exam. "Give up now," Marcus said. "You won't get another chance." The bad guys chuckled and charged at the same time from opposite directions. Marcus dodged Claw's attack, grabbed the villain's extended limb, and used his momentum to toss him into his companion. They hit each other hard but quickly got back up and attacked from different sides. Limited strength here, Marcus told himself as he carefully figured out how hard to attack them so that they wouldn't die in one blow. He blocked Claw's attack with his forearm and then hit the villain in the solar plexus with a measured counter-punch that was strong enough to knock him out. Acid Skin attacked again when Claws was bent over and gasping for breath. This time, it sent a spray of caustic liquid straight at Marcus's face. Marcus dodged beneath the shower and quickly closed the gap. His fist hit Acid Skin's jaw, snapping the villain's head back and making him fall to the ground. He looked back at his classmates. Bakugo had beaten his opponent, a scoundrel with a sword, who was now lying unconscious with burned garments. Kirishima and the villain with rock skin were still hitting each other, but neither was getting ahead. The fifth villain, who had been hanging back at first, now ran toward Mineta with what seemed like a homemade club. Mineta screamed in fear and threw his sticky balls at the villain in a panic. A few of them connected, which slowed the attacker's progress but didn't stop him completely. "Help!" Mineta yelled as he backed away and tripped over some trash. Marcus moved to block the villain's path before he could get to Mineta. A well-aimed blow to the nerve cluster at the base of the villain's neck knocked him out and sent him to the ground. Thanks, Mineta said, brushing his tears and snot away. "I thought I was going to die." Marcus looked at the scene as he turned his attention to Kirishima's continued fight. The villain with the rock skin was tough, and it looked like his peculiarity made him tougher than Kirishima's hardening. "Switch, Kirishima!" Marcus yelled as he ran to stop the bad guy. As Kirishima pulled away, Marcus moved in. Marcus caught the villain's huge fist. "What's going on?" The bad guy gasped as Marcus held his hand still. Marcus looked the bad guy in the eye. "Where is the one with the hands, your leader?" "Fuck you, kid," the bad guy said. Marcus put pressure on the seized fist, and the sound of bones breaking filled the air as he crushed the villain's hand. The bad guy shouted and fell to his knees, but Marcus held on. "I'll ask again," Marcus murmured, his voice oddly calm as he pushed harder. "Where is your boss?" Bakugo, Kirishima, and Mineta were shocked when their usually nice classmates suddenly became violent. "Central Plaza," the bad guy said through his pain. "With the Nomu." "Please stop." Marcus let go of the broken hand, and the bad guy fell. "Thanks for your help." He turned around and saw that his classmates were looking at him with different looks of shock and worry. "What?" he questioned, his chilly manner returning to its typical state, but not quite reaching it. "We need to know more." Kirishima said, "Dude," with a hint of hesitation, "that was intense." "It had to be done," Marcus said simply. "Now we know where the leader is. We need to get back together with the others and come up with a plan." Bakugo looked at Marcus with narrowed eyes. "Flyboy, you're not as soft as you say you are you?" Marcus looked him in the eye. "We all do what we have to do when lives are at stake. Now let's go. The Central Plaza is this way." Mineta gazed back and forth between them, still shivering. "Wait, we're going toward the bad guys? Shouldn't we be trying to get away?" "Our classmates are still all over the place in the facility," Marcus said, seeming more gentle with the scared Mineta. "We get back together, look at the situation, and then choose the best course of action." As they carefully made their way across the landslide zone, Marcus noticed that his classmates looked at him differently now. They now saw him in a different light because of this colder, more brutal side. He would have to deal with this later to keep his cover. Naruto and Craig trained him so hard that it was just too hard for him to stay away from training. But for now, their objective was clear. Get back together, evaluate the situation, and eliminate the threat. Evelyn appeared in the conflagration zone, where buildings were on fire and the heat was unbearable. She landed gracefully and quickly took stock of her circumstances. There were two students nearby, Ojiro and Todoroki. Both seemed to be fine, although they were confused because of the teleportation. And coming through the flames came 7 bad guys who all looked happy with what they thought were easy targets. Evelyn stepped forward with calm authority and told her classmates, "Stay behind me." Todoroki said, "I don't need protection," and ice was already building on his right side. "Then protect Ojiro," she said, not taking her eyes off the threats that were getting closer. "His quirk doesn't work well in this setting." The main bad guy, a woman with metal scales all over her body, laughed. "You kids are so cute trying to organize. This isn't a school project, you brats." The bad guys charged together, evidently thinking they would easily win against college students. Evelyn stayed completely still until they were 15 meters away. Then, with a small movement, she changed the oxygen molecules in the air in front of the bad guys, making a brief vacuum. The bad guys faltered, panting for air that wasn't there all of a sudden. Their progress was stopped by unanticipated breathing problems. One of them managed to say, "What the hell?" when Evelyn let go of the spell and let them breathe again. "Give up," she said in a cold, clinical voice that was usually warm. "You can't win." The scaled woman hissed and got well first. "Arrogant bitch." She charged again. Evelyn moaned quietly and then reached out her hand. The villain's metal scales were surrounded by pink light. Suddenly, the woman screamed as her own armor started to tighten around her body. Evelyn said calmly, "Your scales have a very interesting molecular structure." As the woman fell to the ground, her own quirk created armor crushing her terribly. "I'm just changing the distance between the molecules. Nothing permanent. Yet." The other criminals hesitated as they watched their friend writhe on the ground. "Now," Evelyn said, her voice still strangely calm, "I'll ask for information. Where is your leader? What are you trying to do here?" When no one answered right away, she tightened the molecular links in the scaled woman's armor even more, which made her scream again. Evelyn said, "This is your last chance to answer on your own." Todoroki and Ojiro looked at each other in surprise at how different Evelyn is from how nice and welcoming she usually is. Central Plaza. One bad guy finally shouted. "The boss is there with the Nomu." "Nomu?" Evelyn asked, relaxing the armor on the woman with scales a little as a thank you for helping. The bad guy kept talking uncomfortably. "It's a weapon. Made to kill All Might. That's why we're here. The boss wants to kill the symbol of peace." Evelyn soon understood what this meant. A biological weapon made to fight All Might would be powerful. Roberta's calculations showed that both of them were limited to below All Might, therefore Marcus needed to be alerted. "Thank you," she replied, and then with a wave of her hand, she changed the oxygen levels surrounding all 7 baddies at once, making them all pass out from lack of oxygen in a matter of seconds. She turned to see that Todoroki was observing her with a new sense of caution. "That was quick," he said, looking at her with more interest than before with his 2 different colored eyes. "Your quirk is more useful than you've shown in class. Different applications are needed in combat," Evelyn said, her tone getting a little warmer as she went back to being herself. "We should go to the Central Plaza. If that's where their leader is, that's where the other students will be in the most danger." "Agreed," Todoroki said, nodding his head, but his eyes stayed on the person. "Your way of questioning was surprising." Evelyn smiled in a very delicate way. "Being nice to people who want to hurt you isn't always the right thing to do." Evelyn started to think, knowing her boyfriend, that he would already be on his way to the Center Plaza as they made their way through the flaming zone. She had to get there quickly, though. It was incredibly perilous if this Nomu was made to fight All Might. The main square has turned into a war zone. Aizawa was fighting several enemies at once. His capture weapon and erase quirk kept him ahead of the huge numbers, but only just. Marcus, Bakugo, Kirishima, and Mineta all watched from the edge of the landslide zone to see what was going on before they got involved. Kirishima murmured, "Aizawa-sensei is amazing," as he watched their teacher quickly take down 3 bad guys. "He's getting close to his limit," Marcus said, noticing that Aizawa's blinks were getting longer. "His quirk only works for a short time, and he has too many enemies." Aizawa suddenly staggered, as if to corroborate what he had said. His motion slowed as he got tired. The villain with the covered hand, who was clearly in charge, saw the opening and moved to stop it. "We need to," Marcus started to say, but he stopped when he felt movement behind them. He turned and saw Evelyn coming up with Todoroki and Ojiro. "Risky?" They signed in a way that wasn't obvious. "Yeah," he wrote back. "It looks like the leader has a quirk that makes things fall apart." He didn't know what the big thing next to him could do. They were horrified to see the leader clutch Aizawa's elbow, which made the pro hero's skin, muscle, and eventually bone break down as if it had rotted away right away. "That's his quirk," Evelyn said in a low voice. "Decays on contact." Marcus nodded sadly. "And the big one? This must be the Nomu that the bad guys talked about." The thing was huge. At least 2.5 meters tall, with a brain showing, a beaked face, and muscles that seemed like they were inhuman. It moved quite quickly for its size, grabbing the hurt Aizawa and throwing him into the ground with enough power to break the concrete. Todoroki said, "We need a plan. That thing is clearly made to be powerful." Todoroki said, "I'll freeze it. Bakugo can attack from a distance. The rest of you, no," Marcus said, cutting in with a voice that had a quiet authority. "That thing was made to fight All Might. Your ice won't stop it." "What do you want us to do?" Bakugo asked. Marcus and Evelyn looked at each other, and a quiet discussion happened between them. They couldn't show off too much of what they could do, but they also couldn't just sit back and let their teacher die. Marcus said, "Evelyn and I will talk directly. Our quirks give us the best mix of offense and defense. Todoroki, use ice attacks from a distance to protect us. Bakugo, Be ready to make explosions to distract them if you need to. And what about us? Kirishima inquired, pointing to himself, Ojiro, and Mineta. Evelyn told them to protect any other students who might come, and be ready to get Aizawa-sensei out of there when we make a hole. Mineta started to shake and say, I don't think I can. You can, Marcus said firmly, cutting him off. Use your quirk to stop any villains who come near you. You don't have to fight them directly. Before anyone could say anything else, something else attracted their attention. The main doors flew open, and a group of villains chased after Midoriya, Asui, and Uraraka. The leader with the hand-covered face saw them right away and turned away from the herd Aizawa with apparent intent. Now, Marcus said, and he jumped forward with Evelyn right behind him. He was quick. It was plain what he wanted to do. Stop the leader before he could get to Midoriya and the others. When Marcus got in the way of the leader, Shigaraki, one of the bad guys, turned in surprise. Another NPC? Shigaraki said quietly as he reached for Marcus with his hand that makes things decay. Marcus grabbed the villain's wrist before it could hit him, putting just enough pressure on it to make him wince but not enough to break bones. Yet. Your game ends here, Marcus said in a harsh voice. Shigaraki's eyes got bigger behind the hand that was covering his face. He cried out, Nomu. Get rid of this one. The huge beast reacted right away, leaving Aizawa's broken body behind and charging for Marcus. Marcus let go of Shigaraki and turned to face the new menace. The Nomu's fist hit his crossed arms, and the force of the blow made him slide back, even though he was braced. He thought to himself, strong. As the Nomu advanced, preparing for another attack, a surge of pink energy enveloped its feet, causing the concrete beneath to liquefy and then solidify instantaneously, momentarily ensnaring the creature. Evelyn advanced, her hands radiating with energy. I have made a temporary modification to the molecular structure of the concrete, she explained to Marcus. It is unlikely to last for an extended period. Indeed, the Nomu was already breaking free, the concrete fracturing under its immense strength. A coordinated assault, Marcus concluded. I will take the lead in engagement. Please offer your support. Evelyn acknowledged with a nod, demonstrating her immediate comprehension. Marcus propelled himself toward the Nomu at the moment it broke free, executing a precise punch to its midsection. The Nomu exhibited minimal reaction, executing a powerful swing of its massive arm in a counterattack that Marcus narrowly evaded. Marcus immediately recognized the importance of shock absorption. Relying solely on physical attacks will not be adequate. Evelyn, he called. Internal disruption has occurred. Evelyn quickly assessed the situation and directed her abilities toward the Nomu's exposed brain, striving to alter its molecular structure directly. However, her proficiency in manipulating organic matter remains limited, presenting challenges in this area. The creature faltered momentarily, emitting a guttural sound from its beaked mouth. However, it quickly regained its composure, seemingly adjusting to the assault. Regeneration as well, Evelyn remarked with a serious tone. A variety of unique characteristics within a single individual. That appears to be impossible, Todoroki remarked from his position, unleashing a wave of ice that momentarily restrained the Nomu's legs. The ice fractured swiftly as the creature exerted its strength, propelling shards in every direction. Marcus started to contemplate his next steps. Given his current limitations, a confrontation would present challenges, though it is not entirely unfeasible. The strategy involved leveraging the creature's perceived deficiency in intelligence. Distraction pattern, he addressed Evelyn. They had prepared extensively for this, executing coordinated strategies against more formidable adversaries. Despite the limitations imposed by this world, their tactical experience remained fully intact. Marcus launched another attack, this time targeting the Nomu's legs instead of its torso. As the creature leaned in to strike, Evelyn generated a temporary vacuum around its head, effectively disrupting its focus. The introduction was concise yet sufficient. Marcus executed a precise series of strikes to the creature's joints, knees, elbows, and shoulders, strategically targeting potential weaknesses in its structure. The Nomu emitted a powerful roar, executing erratic swings. A powerful blow struck Marcus on the shoulder, propelling him into a nearby fountain. That was painful, he reflected with irritation, getting up from the broken marble. The strength is certainly on par with my current capabilities. The Nomu focused on Evelyn, who hovered just out of reach, skillfully adjusting the air density to sustain her position. As it advanced towards her, Marcus recognized his chance. He propelled himself from the remnants of the fountain, reaching his maximum velocity in this realm. As the Nomu attempted to strike Evelyn, Marcus delivered a powerful blow to its exposed neck from behind, his hand positioned like a blade, reminiscent of his father's signature technique. A shockwave emerged, swiftly absorbed as the Nomu's head partially detached from its body, blood erupting from the injury as its spinal column was cut through. For a brief period, the creature remained still. Subsequently, remarkably, its head started to reattach, the injury healing as its regeneration ability was triggered. Insufficient, Marcus remarked, readying himself for another assault. Before he could take action, Evelyn approached him, her hands radiating a soft pink energy. Together, she stated succinctly, "Neither is genuinely concerned at this time." Engaging in training with Naruto rendered this experience significantly easier. An exceptionally durable toy. As the Nomu oriented itself towards them, continuing its regeneration, they launched their assault in unison. Marcus executed another forceful strike to the same area, while Evelyn sought to impede the regeneration process of the wound using her abilities. This time, Nomu's head detached entirely, its substantial body crumpling as Evelyn effectively halted the regeneration process from re-establishing the essential neural pathways. Marcus swiftly seized the head and applied significant pressure until cerebral matter and blood dispersed widely, ensuring the brain was obliterated to prevent any possibility of regeneration from a severed head. One can never be certain, as Naruto consistently advised them, double or even triple tap if necessary, while they both breathed heavily from fatigue. They are finally facing the consequences of their inability to uphold their usual facade of flawless authority, a lesson imparted by Naruto about the importance of maintaining a strong front whenever feasible. Uncertainty loomed, with the possibility of a concealed adversary poised to exploit any vulnerability, instilling a sense of fear that compelled them to retreat. A stunned silence enveloped the plaza as both students and villains observed the fallen creature with wide eyes. Shigaraki commenced scratching his neck with great intensity. That is not acceptable. The Nomu was specifically engineered to eliminate All Might. How could anyone possibly? The main doors suddenly burst open, interrupting his rant. A recognizable silhouette emerged, illuminated by the entrance lights. "Do not be alarmed," resonated a voice that echoed throughout the entire facility. "I am present." All Might arrived, his signature smile absent as he surveyed the situation. The injured Aizawa, the disarrayed students, the villains, and the headless Nomu at the feet of Marcus and Evelyn, who were covered in blood. Shigaraki's scratching became more pronounced. "You have arrived after the fact. Your students have already defeated our Nomu." This outcome was not anticipated. The black mist, known as Kurogiri, as referred to by Shigaraki, materialized alongside the villain shrouded in hands. "Shigaraki Tamura, we need to withdraw. The pro-heroes will be here shortly." Shigaraki persisted in scratching, his visible agitation evident even with the hand obscuring his face. "This situation is unjust. It appears there may have been some form of dishonesty involved." "Shigaraki Tamura," Kurogiri asserted, his misty form expanding. "Very well," Shigaraki stated, gesturing towards Marcus and Evelyn. "Please keep this in mind, players. In the future, the game will not be set to easy mode." Before All Might or any of the students could respond, Kurogiri's mist surrounded Shigaraki, and both villains disappeared. "We must assess Aizawa-sensei's condition," Marcus initiated, but the environment abruptly shifted around him. The final image that Marcus retained before being enveloped by darkness was the worried expression of All Might and the sight of Evelyn collapsing next to him, as both ultimately yielded to the demands of their confrontation. Mission accomplished, he reflected as he observed nothing but darkness. The students received protection, and we have highlighted our presence in anticipation of the forthcoming sidekick tournament. Uncle Naruto, he thought, before he corrected himself, the Emperor will be pleased. The evidence board in Detective Naruto Grayson's office had evolved into a sophisticated arrangement of strings, photographs, and case notes. To any observer, it would seem to be the effort of a diligent investigator monitoring a drug distribution network. In truth, it was a meticulously crafted facade, a credible rationale for Naruto to explore locations that would ultimately guide him to his actual objective. Naruto examined the board intently, his substantial presence causing the standard issue police chair to creak under his weight. The Battle Beast coat was left at home, substituted with a tailored charcoal suit that still found it challenging to accommodate his muscular physique. His mustache was meticulously groomed, contributing to the aura of authority that compelled even seasoned officers to defer to him, despite his relatively recent arrival. "The distribution patterns have shifted," he remarked, addressing Detective Tanaka, who was positioned nearby. Originally concentrated in the harbor district, It is now dispersing into smaller units across these 4 zones. Tanaka acknowledged his colleague's analytical skills with admiration. This aligns with the pressure we have been exerting. They are adjusting accordingly. Not adapting, Naruto clarified, pointing to a specific photograph. They are retreating. There has been a disruption in their hierarchy. These movements are not strategic redeployments, rather, they are defensive responses. As Captain Morita entered, the door swung open, revealing a fresh case file in his hand. Grayson, I have information that may be relevant to your investigation into the drug network. Naruto received the file, reviewing its contents with precision while adhering to a suitable reading speed. Warehouse District. 4 deceased individuals. Indications of execution utilizing quirk-based methods. Precisely, Morita affirmed. Forensics identified traces of the same designer drug you have been monitoring. However, the noteworthy aspect is that these individuals were not street-level dealers, but rather involved in mid-management at a minimum. Naruto examined the photographs from the crime scene meticulously. The expressions of the victims conveyed terror rather than surprise. They were aware of death's approach. A calculated strike, he noted, focused removal instead of land contention. Morita concurred with that assessment. The inquiry is, who is undertaking the cleaning process, and what is the reason for this timing? Naruto analyzed the situation, recognizing how this development could align with his ultimate goal. I request authorization to conduct a personal investigation of the scene. Granted, Morita responded. Please bring Tanaka along. As for Grayson, the commissioner has expressed appreciation for your performance to date. He noted that you possess strong instincts. As Morita departed, Naruto permitted himself a subtle smile. Individuals often exhibit a remarkable tendency to be influenced by competence, readily placing their trust in those who demonstrate even a slight edge in capability. The process of infiltration proved to be surprisingly straightforward. I am prepared whenever you are, Tanaka stated, putting on his jacket. Naruto acknowledged with a nod. The components were coming together seamlessly. The warehouse crime scene remained secured upon their arrival, with forensic technicians diligently recording each detail. Naruto navigated beneath the police tape, promptly assessing details that eluded human investigators. Residual energy from quirks remained in the atmosphere, exhibiting unique patterns indicative of a quirk centered on pressure manipulation. The blood spatter patterns on the walls revealed a narrative of execution-style killings, characterized by unusual directionality. There appears to be an anomaly in the blood patterns, Tanaka noted, inadvertently reflecting Naruto's thoughts. It appears as though they were compromised from within. Indeed, Naruto affirmed, kneeling to inspect a dark residue on the concrete floor. He examined it meticulously between his fingers, assessing its molecular composition solely through tactile perception. This substance requires immediate testing. A forensic technician approached, prepared with an evidence bag. What is our objective, detective? The chemical markers align with those found in quirk enhancement drugs, albeit with a distinct modification. Naruto placed the sample into the bag. Evaluated in relation to instances where quirk amplification has resulted in negative outcomes. As the technician swiftly departed, Tanaka observed him with a look of intrigue. Do you believe this is connected to quirk boosters? Not boosters, Naruto clarified. A more refined approach is necessary. These individuals were not eliminated for reasons of territory or resources. Their demise was a consequence of having witnessed something they were not meant to see. He proceeded to the center of the warehouse, where the incident had commenced. His advanced vision identified minute traces of a substance that the forensic team had overlooked, a compound with a molecular structure distinct from conventional narcotics. Tanaka, he instructed, please access the database for any similar cases related to pressure-based quirk fatalities from the past 6 months. As his partner operated the tablet, Naruto proceeded with his analysis, systematically linking these fatalities to his primary objective. The Shi Hasaikai has not yet made its presence known in official records, as its operations are conducted with a level of caution and adherence to tradition that keeps it off the police radar. However, they would encounter suppliers, competitors, and, at times, challenges that necessitated resolution. We have 3 cases, Tanaka reported. 2 incidents occurred 4 months ago, and 1 took place last month. All are linked to individuals associated with the underworld and drug distribution networks. Could you please provide the locations? All in different districts, however. Tanaka's eyes widened slightly as he observed the pattern. All located within a 2-kilometer radius of properties owned by shell companies associated with the Hata family. Naruto nodded. a sense of satisfaction concealed beneath his composed exterior. The Hada family, a Yakuza group facing a decline, has recently undergone a transition in leadership. Research suggests they have historical connections to the Shi Hasaikai. It is essential that we investigate these shell companies, Naruto asserted. The killings are not arbitrary. They represent a methodical removal of witnesses to a broader issue. Tanaka appeared to be quite impressed. I will proceed with the request for the warrants. I concur with that, Naruto affirmed. I will finalize my analysis at this location. As Tanaka stepped away to make the call, Naruto took a moment to reflect. The trajectory towards overhaul and the Shi Hasaikai was becoming more defined. Shortly, he would possess a valid justification to examine them directly, and through them, gain access to Eri and her time-reversing quirk. He received a notification on his phone indicating an incoming message from Amanda. The children are performing well at UAE. Zuko made another visit yesterday. His mother prepares exceptional tea. Advancements are ongoing. Naruto's expression subtly softened. Marcus and Evelyn executed their responsibilities flawlessly, collaborating with Midoriya and fostering trust. The boy's unique ability rendered him an asset, potentially worthy of preservation if he could be aligned with their objectives. He provided a concise response. Noted. Continue with the current strategy. Stowing the phone away, Naruto resumed his investigation, systematically constructing the case that would direct him precisely to his intended destination. In another area of the city, Nolan Grayson, currently using the alias Heisenberg, was seated in an unremarkable vehicle, closely monitoring a seemingly deserted warehouse. Beside him, Samantha, War, stood motionless, her gaze fixed intently on their target. This marks the third delivery today, Nolan observed as another unmarked van arrived at the warehouse. The pattern remains consistent with yesterday. Samantha acknowledged with a nod, her tone measured and distant. Consistent schedule. Methodical. Distinct from the majority of illicit activities in this city. The observers noted the masked individuals unloading crates with remarkable precision. Every action is purposeful, and dialogue is kept to a minimum. Accomplished in a manner that street criminals seldom attain. Samantha noted, father was correct. The Shi Hasaikai functions distinctly. They adhere to more conventional practices and maintain a sharper focus. Nolan acknowledged with a nod. Yakuza. Traditional. They perceive the contemporary villain culture as disordered and lacking discipline. They have a valid point, Samantha responded, a subtle note of endorsement in her voice. The final crate was moved into the warehouse, and the van left the premises. Nolan glanced at his watch. The shift change is scheduled for 20 minutes from now, providing us with our opportunity. Samantha's fingers tapped gently against her thigh, the sole indication of her anticipation. Could you provide the infiltration parameters? Nolan reiterated, observation only. Your father seeks confirmation of their operations before direct engagement. A subtle frown appeared on Samantha's face at the reference to Naruto. He is exercising caution. We could dismantle their entire operation today if he permitted it. Nolan advised with a calm demeanor, patience. Your father's strategies have consistently proven successful. There is intent behind his restraint. Samantha's expression changed subtly at this defense of Naruto. Certainly. I did not intend to challenge his expertise. Nolan observed her for a moment, recognizing the sudden change in her demeanor. The transformation of Eve into Samantha, following the war, was remarkable. She exhibited physical healing yet displayed a complex psychological state. Her commitment to Naruto approached reverence, with her entire identity now centered on seeking his approval. It is time, he stated at last, reviewing his equipment. Please keep in mind that our role is to observe only. Engagement should occur only when necessary. Samantha acknowledged with a nod, her black mask seamlessly forming around her face as she utilized her abilities. Acknowledged. Upon exiting the vehicle, Nolan found himself contemplating the stark differences between this world and the one they had previously mastered. There is significantly more to consider. Dramatic. People embodying heroic and villainous personas, adorned in distinctive attire and utilizing aliases, engage in a complex game governed by rules that remain elusive to both factions. The eventual conquest would be rendered both simpler and more complex. The situation was more straightforward as the population had grown accustomed to the notion of being safeguarded by formidable entities. The situation is more complex due to potential resistance from individuals against intervention by those same authorities. However, that was a matter of concern for his older brother. Nolan's responsibilities were straightforward. collect intelligence, develop their criminal identity, and lay the groundwork for future actions. Heisenberg and War advanced quietly toward the warehouse, blending seamlessly into the darkness. At police headquarters, Naruto stood before Captain Morita, delivering his findings. The evidence indicates that these killings are components of a broader operation, he articulated, gesturing to the crime scene photos organized on Morita's desk. The individuals targeted were not chosen at random. They were deliberately eliminated to eliminate potential witnesses. Morita observed the images with a furrowed brow. What are the witnesses referring to? That is what we need to ascertain, Naruto responded. The link to the Hada family properties is noteworthy. Their recent change in management aligns with the initial killings that occurred 4 months ago. Morita contemplated the Hada family. They have maintained a low profile for several years, experiencing a decrease in their influence within the Yakuza hierarchy. Their decline may have been overstated, Naruto proposed. Alternatively, it is possible that an individual is repurposing their existing infrastructure for different applications. Morita reclined in his chair, deep in thought. Are you suggesting that new management will lead to new business opportunities? Indeed, Naruto affirmed. The molecular structure of the residue discovered at the scene suggests advanced chemical engineering, surpassing conventional street drugs. It appears that someone is creating an innovative substance, one that is deemed valuable enough to warrant extreme measures for its protection. Do you believe the Hadas are implicated? That is not the case, Naruto clarified. I suspect they may be a facade. Historical documentation suggests that the Hada family had affiliations with another Yakuza organization, the Shi Hasaikai. Morita's eyebrows elevated in surprise. The Shi Hasaikai? They have remained largely unnoticed for years. They represent the old-school Yakuza, adhering strictly to traditional values. This characteristic makes them ideal for this operation, Naruto noted. They refrain from drawing attention, uphold discipline, and possess the necessary infrastructure for advanced operations. Morita observed him intently for a brief period. This is commendable work, Grayson. However, delving into Yakuza matters can be perilous. They tend to react unfavorably to law enforcement scrutiny. That only strengthens the case for pursuing it, Naruto countered. The ongoing developments warrant multiple measures to maintain confidentiality. This indicates a considerable risk to public safety. Following a brief moment of contemplation, Morita gave a nod of agreement. Understood. I will authorize the ongoing investigation into these connections. However, proceed with caution. The Yakuza maintain a pervasive presence. Understood, Captain, Naruto replied, a sense of satisfaction concealed beneath his composed exterior. As he collected his materials to depart, Morita inquired, by the way, how is your family adapting? Is your brother and the children settling in well to Musutafu? They are adjusting effectively, Naruto responded, infusing his voice with a subtle warmth. The students are benefiting from their experience at UA University, a highly regarded institution. Indeed, it is, Morita concurred. My nephew made 3 consecutive attempts to gain admission. Your children must possess remarkable abilities. They put in a great deal of effort, Naruto stated succinctly, skillfully avoiding any further questions with a display of humility. Upon returning to his office, Naruto contemplated the seamless progress of their integration. His role within the police force conferred authority and facilitated access. Nolan's rising influence in the underworld coincided with Heisenberg's establishment of ties within the criminal sphere. The students at UA were establishing their roles within the forthcoming generation of heroes. All elements are positioned correctly on the board. This world is overly captivated by heroes, their idealistic perspectives, and their ineffective flamboyance. This mindset and approach could potentially complicate future integration efforts. There are just so many people out there trying to be heroes. It's interesting to see so many people opting for the villain route, thinking it's going to be something groundbreaking. It would take a lot of killing and a huge waste of DNA. Naruto could totally take out a whole country just to prove a point, but honestly, that seems like overkill. No, he's going to point out where they're going wrong. Point out how heroes can be incompetent and how villains often act foolishly. Their system just ends up hurting their own people. It's like their laws are holding them back from fully exploring what they can do. They can only use their quirks if they have a license, which seems to stop them from embracing something that's such a fundamental part of who they are. That's just absurd. Suddenly, his phone buzzed, breaking into his train of thought. I saw that the caller ID was from UA University's administrative office. Detective Grayson, he replied, sounding all business. Mr. Grayson, it's Principal Nezu from UA University, came the reply, the voice surprisingly cheerful even with that serious vibe hanging in the air. I wanted to chat about something that happened with your daughter Evelyn and your nephew Marcus. Naruto stood up, even though he had been waiting for this call. So, today was the big day for the USJ training exercise, the day when the League of Villains planned to make their move and try to take down All Might. Marcus and Evelyn would definitely have been there, and given what they can do, they would have stepped in and handled things well. What kind of incident was it? He asked, his voice laced with genuine parental concern. So, there was this attack on the USJ facility while they were doing a class exercise, Nezu explained. Some villains snuck into the training ground. We'd like to chat with you and your brother about how your daughter and nephew played a key role in keeping their classmates safe. Their actions have sparked some questions. Were they hurt? Naruto asked, nailing that worried dad vibe just right. They're both in the recovery ward now, Nezu said to him, reassuringly. Recovery girl mentioned that they're dealing with quirk exhaustion, but she assures us they'll be just fine. But there are some parts of their intervention that we need to talk about with their guardians. Sure thing, Naruto said. My brother and I will be there in about an hour. After he hung up, Naruto couldn't help but smile a little, feeling satisfied. Marcus and Evelyn did just what everyone thought they would. Showing off enough strength to catch attention but keeping their real skills under wraps. He called up Nolan's secure line. As soon as his brother picked up, he jumped right in without any small talk. So, the USJ incident that the League of Villains was planning has actually happened. You know, the one Roberta found out about? Well, Marcus and Evelyn jumped in just like we thought they would. And guess what? We've been called to UA in less than an hour. Nolan nodded and said, got it. So, we've wrapped up our first look at the Hasaikai facility. Samantha's busy putting all the data together right now. Sounds good. Let's meet at the university, and we can chat about your findings afterward. As the call wrapped up, Naruto grabbed his coat. Things were moving along just as planned. The League of Villains has finally taken action. So, the Hasaikai investigation was moving along. Before long, the UA Sports Festival was going to be the ideal stage for Marcus and Evelyn to show off their finely tuned skills. Everything was going just as we had planned. This world wouldn't even realize it was conquered until it was all said and done. The UA recovery ward was pretty quiet, with just the steady beeping of the monitoring equipment filling the air. Marcus and Evelyn were chilling on the beds next to each other, their injuries already on the mend thanks to recovery girl's quirk. They both looked tired but wide awake, straightening up at the same time when the door swung open. Principal Nezu was the first to walk in. Following him was Aizawa, sporting a sling on his arm and some bandages on his face, but his intense gaze was just as sharp as always. Everyone, your guardians are here, Nezu said, keeping it light even though things were pretty serious. In the hallway, a bunch of Class 1A students had formed a little crowd. Uraraka, Asui, Iida, Kirishima, and a few others were on edge, eagerly waiting to hear any updates about their classmates. Their soft chat suddenly stopped when they heard heavy footsteps coming closer, causing the floor to shake a bit beneath them. Whoa, Kirishima said, his eyes going wide as two huge guys turned the corner. The footsteps got louder, and as Naruto Grayson walked through the doorway to the recovery room, everything felt different. Standing at 7 feet 3 inches, he filled the entrance, with his broad shoulders almost brushing against both sides of the doorframe. His perfectly fitted detective suit didn't hide his strong build, with muscles flexing against the fabric every time he moved. Nolan followed behind, a foot shorter but just as impressive. His presence complemented his brother's instead of trying to compete with it. The students in the hallway shared wide-eyed looks with each other. Is that Marcus's uncle? Kaminari whispered, instinctively stepping back. He's even bigger than All Might. Wow, that's so manly, Kirishima said, a mix of admiration and a bit of intimidation in his voice. I can see why Marcus is so strong. Iida fiddled with his glasses, a bit anxious. You can see the family resemblance. The same bearing, the same presence. In the room, Evelyn's response was quick and caught everyone off guard, especially those who saw her as the calm, thoughtful student. Her face brightened with real happiness as she jumped out of bed, quickly crossing the room to throw herself into Naruto's arms. Dad, she exclaimed, wrapping her arms around him as far as they could go. Naruto's transformation was something else. The tough, intimidating detective softened up, wrapping his big arms around his daughter with such gentle care. He leaned down a bit to plant a kiss on the top of her head, gently running his fingers through her hair. "I'm fine," Evelyn said with a reassuring smile, but she didn't pull away from his hug. "Just feeling a bit tired." "I know," Naruto said, his voice surprisingly soft for someone so strong. "You did great." Marcus got up more calmly, sharing a quick hug with Nolan. "Uncle," he said with a respectful nod to Naruto. Aizawa kept a close eye on the family reunion, taking in every little detail with curiosity. The Graysons were definitely something different in his experience. A family of late bloomers with their own unique quirks that showed up well after the usual age. So, it turns out that both Naruto and Nolan started working on their strength enhancement quirks when they were in their late teens. Interestingly, Naruto's quirk kept evolving even as he got older. Their kids had kind of followed the same trend, with their powers just popping up recently. It made sense for them to show up a bit late, but it also raised some eyebrows about how well they were handling it all. The door swung open once more, letting in Midoriya, who had been hanging out with the others outside. The green-haired student paused for a second when he spotted Naruto, a surprised "Whoa," slipping out before he could help it. Naruto turned a bit, giving a small nod to the newcomer. Midoriya's mind kicked into gear, drawing comparisons between the big detective and the only other person he knew who was anywhere close to that size. "Wow, he's nearly the same height as All Might," Midoriya thought, his eyes going wide. "He might even be a little broader in the shoulders. And that's without even transforming like All Might does." "Young Midoriya," Nezu said with a smile. "Glad you could join us. Since you saw what happened today, your take on it will matter. I was one of the few students there during the Nomu fight, and I got to watch and think about everything that happened." Midoriya nodded, making an effort not to keep his eyes on Naruto. He had been to the Grayson home a few times since becoming friends with Marcus and Evelyn, but Naruto always seemed to be busy with work. Meeting him face to face was kind of intimidating, and it felt like it was more than just his physical presence. The students gathered in the hallway, leaning in closer to the slightly ajar door, eager to catch what was happening inside. "Wow, I can't believe that's Evelyn's dad," Ashido said quietly. "It makes sense why she's so confident. Check out how he holds himself," Tokiyami said softly. "It's like he's royalty. It seems like he's accustomed to having complete control." Uraraka nodded, feeling a little shiver run down her spine. "There's just something about him that makes you want to stand at attention, right?" "All right, everyone," Nezu said as he stepped inside and waved for everyone to take a seat. "Let's chat about what happened today." Naruto and Nolan plopped down on seats that looked almost silly under their big frames. Evelyn made her way back to her bed with a bit of hesitation, while Marcus straightened up, getting ready for the questions ahead. "So, let's get straight to the point," Nezu said, his upbeat tone contrasting with the gravity of his message. "We're worried about the deadly force that Marcus and Evelyn used during the villain attack." "What do you mean by lethal force?" Naruto said again, his face showing a look of parental worry. "They stood up for themselves against the bad guys who broke into a school. I thought they were supposed to look out for their classmates." "They did," Aizawa said, his bandaged face making it tough to tell what he was thinking. "But they also decapitated and destroyed the brain of an artificial human known as a Nomu, with some pretty alarming efficiency." In the hallway, Kirishima gulped, thinking back to how fiercely Marcus had fought. "I didn't catch everything, but wow. When Marcus got serious, it was like he turned into a whole new person." "Evelyn too," Asui said softly. "She's usually calm and friendly, but during the fight, she was. It's chilly. Let's do some calculations." Midoriya observed the interaction inside, feeling more and more uneasy as he recalled how Marcus and Evelyn had taken apart the creature that had almost taken Aizawa-sensei's life. "I get it," Naruto said, his voice steady. "From a law enforcement angle, I'd have to wonder if this Nomu can be seen as legally human. Could it think for itself? What do you think about moral reasoning? Or was it just a tool used by the bad guys?" Nezu's whiskers twitched with curiosity. "That's quite the philosophical question, Detective Grayson. It looks like our initial analysis points to the Nomu being a modified human, but it seems like their cognitive abilities are pretty limited." "If I could jump in for a second," Nolan said, "my son and niece were dealing with a serious threat to themselves and their classmates. They made the most of what they had to tackle that threat. You know, it's pretty impressive how they handle themselves," Aizawa remarked, his gaze sharpening a bit. "It's not what you'd expect from students whose quirks just kicked in." The room went quiet at that unspoken accusation. Midoriya looked back and forth between his teachers and the Grayson family, picking up on the slight tension in Marcus's shoulders. Outside, Iida fiddled with his glasses, looking a bit anxious. "I think Professor Aizawa is acting a little suspicious," he said quietly. "Can you blame him?" Todoroki chimed in, finally speaking up. "Their quirks are said to have just shown up recently, but they fought like they've been doing this forever." Naruto broke the silence, his tone taking on a sharper edge, echoing his detective side. "Are you implying that my daughter and nephew have been involved in illegal quirk usage, Professor Aizawa?" "I'm noticing something off," Aizawa said, not at all intimidated by Naruto's strong presence. "The way they control things shows they've been at it for years, not just a few months." Nolan leaned in a bit. "My brother was in specialized military units until his injuries made him retire. We've been teaching our kids combat techniques since they were little, quirks or not." "Sure. Hand-to-hand combat is one thing," Aizawa replied. "But the precision they showed with their quirks? That's a whole different ballgame." Marcus chimed in, his voice steady even with the tension in the air. "Uncle Naruto and my dad instilled in us the importance of discipline and focus way before our quirks showed up. They knew we might end up with quirks like theirs, considering they were late bloomers too. Once they showed up, we put those same principles into action." "Exactly," Evelyn chimed in. "You know, mental discipline carries over to different areas." Nezu nodded, looking thoughtful. "That makes sense. But there's still the issue of the deadly approach use." "Can I have a word?" Midoriya raised his hand, looking a bit unsure, like he was in class. When Nezu nodded, Midoriya went on. "The Nomu was super strong. It had a bunch of cool features: shock absorption, super strength, and some serious regeneration, at least. It almost took out Aizawa-sensei, and now it's coming for us." He gulped. "I don't think they had any other option but to. Let's put an end to it for good." "You know, young Midoriya has a point," Nezu said. "Things were pretty serious, and the usual ways of taking someone down might not have worked." Naruto's expression relaxed a bit as he looked at Midoriya with fresh curiosity. "Thanks for sharing that," he said, his deep voice making Midoriya stand up a little straighter. Outside the room, Uraraka lingered by the door, eavesdropping a bit. Her thoughts were still wandering as she recalled how she had instinctively stepped back when Naruto's gaze met hers for just a moment. She thought, if Marcus is this strong with a late-blooming quirk, his uncle and father must be absolutely terrifying at full strength. "Oh, and we can't forget about quirk exhaustion," Recovery Girl chimed in as she walked into the room with her clipboard. She shot a quick look at the students eavesdropping before casually opening the other door, not paying them much mind. Both students went beyond what was safe for them. Marcus hurt his muscles, and Evelyn felt some weird feedback from pushing her molecular manipulation too far. Naruto's face instantly showed worry. "Is there any lasting damage?" "There's nothing my quirk can't handle," Recovery Girl said with a reassuring smile. "But they definitely need some rest. Let's take a break from using quirks for at least 3 days. "They'll rest," Naruto said confidently, his tone showing that this wasn't just a promise but something he truly believed. Nezu cleared his throat. "You know, while we have some concerns about how things were done, we can't ignore that Marcus and Evelyn probably saved lives today. Shigaraki Tamura, the villain leader, has this decay quirk that could have taken out a bunch of students if he had gotten to them. So, what's the main goal of this meeting, then?" Nolan asked straightforwardly. "Are we going to reprimand them for saving their classmates?" "Just to clarify," Aizawa said. "UA trains heroes, not soldiers. The difference is important." "I hear you, Professor," Naruto replied, "but heroes who can't make tough calls in life or death moments are just actors in costumes." The statement lingered, its straightforwardness catching even Aizawa off guard. Midoriya couldn't help but think about Naruto's words, even though he initially felt inclined to disagree. All might always manage to save everyone without taking a life, but were there times when even the symbol of peace faced situations with no other options? Outside, Todoroki looked a bit pensive. "He's not completely off base," he said quietly, catching his classmates off guard. "But aren't heroes supposed to save everyone?" Uraraka said, a hint of doubt in her voice. "What do we do when that's not an option?" Todoroki replied softly. "What do you do when it's one life against many?" "That's an interesting take, Detective," Nezu replied after a pause. "Definitely something we should chat about in our ethics class. Right now, I think we've tackled the immediate concerns." He looked over at Marcus and Evelyn. "You stepped up to protect yourselves and your classmates, and for that, UA appreciates it. I just want to suggest that you both take a moment to think about the responsibility that comes with the power you have. Got it, Principal Nezu, Marcus said with a nod. We'll definitely be more mindful moving forward, Evelyn said, sounding genuinely sorry. Aizawa seemed a bit unsure, but he gave a nod anyway. You two are off from classes for the next 3 days. Take this time to heal and think things over. As the meeting wrapped up, Midoriya hung back a bit, observing Naruto as he kindly assisted Evelyn to her feet while she started sharing more about what had happened. It was interesting to witness that kind of raw power mixed with such clear paternal care. Midoriya, Naruto's voice called out to him, making him jump a little. I hear you've been coming over to our place pretty often. Sure thing, sir. Midoriya straightened up a bit and said, Marcus and Evelyn have been helping me out with my combat training. Naruto looked at him with a gaze that felt deeper than it should. You showed some guts today, from what my daughter said, jumping in to fight the beast when it was going after your sensei. That's impressive. Thank you, sir, Midoriya said, feeling a mix of fear and a strange sense of happiness from the compliment. You should definitely come over for dinner once the kids are feeling better, Naruto said. My brother and I would love to hear more about your take on heroics. Just as Midoriya was about to say something, Aizawa stepped in. Detective Grayson, can we chat for a moment before you head out? Naruto gave a nod to Midoriya and then stepped aside with Aizawa. They were talking softly, so Midoriya couldn't catch what they were saying, but he could definitely see the tension in Aizawa's stance. He's a bit intimidating, don't you think? Marcus just popped up next to Midoriya. Your uncle? Yeah, a bit, Midoriya confessed. It's intense. Marcus gave a small smile. He does have that effect on people. He's a fair guy. It always has been. I noticed you call him, uncle, in such a formal way, Midoriya pointed out. You know, military family habits, Marcus said with a casual shrug. Respect matters in our home. Nolan was chatting softly with Evelyn across the room, and she was nodding every now and then at what he was saying. Even though they had a strong presence, there was a real warmth in the way the Grayson men connected with their kids. As they were getting ready to head out, Naruto walked up to Principal Nezu one last time. Thanks for taking care of this situation, Principal. Don't worry, we care about our kids' development. Absolutely, Detective, Nezu said with a smile. That's the whole point of UA. To mold the heroes of tomorrow. Yeah, Naruto said, but there was a hint in his voice that he might see heroism a bit differently. The Graysons left as a group, with Naruto's big figure taking the lead, Evelyn right beside him, and Marcus and Nolan trailing behind. As they walked down the hallway, the students naturally squeezed against the walls, making way for them. A few even lowered their heads a bit without noticing it. Bakugo, leaning against the wall with his typical scowl, straightened up a bit as Naruto walked by. For maybe the first time ever, he stayed totally quiet, his usual confidence slipping away as he faced something his instincts knew was at the top of the food chain. When they left, it felt like the tension in the hallway just vanished, something everyone had kind of felt but never talked about. The students let out a collective sigh and shared confused looks with each other. Wow, Uraraka said once they were out of earshot. Marcus's uncle is. Wow. Yeah, Midoriya said, stepping outside to join the group, still thinking about what just happened. It's kind of odd, All Might has this way of making you feel safe as soon as he walks in. Detective Grayson gives you a sense of. Like prey, Asui said straightforwardly. Ribbit. No offense to Marcus and Evelyn. It's not just his size, Midoriya thought out loud. It's like he's holding something. It feels like there's this huge pressure just under the surface. Did you notice how even Bakugo went quiet? Kaminari leaned in closer, stealing a glance at the explosive student who was still fixated on the hallway, their expression a total mystery. It felt like seeing a lion stroll through a room full of house cats. Jiro chimed in. Aizawa caught wind of this and shot Jiro a pointed glance. That's an interesting observation, Jiro, he said in a low voice. Very interesting, for sure. As everyone started to leave, Aizawa hung back, looking at the door the Graysons had just walked through. There was just something off about that family. The way they acted, how well they fought together, and their strange dynamics. Yeah, everything had this logical vibe to it, but it felt like it was almost too perfect. Like they had a ready-made answer for every single question. Yeah, that could be the case, and he might be overthinking things a bit, but still, his gut feeling was definitely trying to tell him something. Especially when he saw Naruto Grayson. There was just something about that guy that felt different. It just seemed off to think of him as just a detective. It didn't quite capture the vibe he gave off. With that in mind, and considering who he is. So, Eraserhead was never the type to brush off his gut feelings. Stay tuned for more. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this video. I'm thrilled you watched the video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe for even more exciting content coming your way soon.